We originally on the recipe that we've shared with you on Google Classroom, you'll see that if you've looked at it, that the recipe asks you to bring in some ready-made pastry and just use the ready-made pastry that you buy in the supermarket and then make sausage rolls out of it. Now, that's great and you end up with a great product, but you're not learning a skill. So I decided to change that recipe. You are going to make the pastry yourself from scratch, which is why we're doing it over 2 lessons. You'll spend 1 lesson making the pastry and then the second lesson filling it. We'll provide you with all the ingredients to make the pastry, but you will need to bring the ingredients that will go inside that pastry, because not everybody likes sausage rolls. Not everybody eats meat. Some people are vegetarian. So you may bring in sausages, you may bring in cheese and onion, for example. What you put into that sausage roll is entirely up to you. I'm going to take all questions at the end because we're being recorded and we need to get this done. So your options really will be limited to sausage or cheese and onion. We'll discuss it at the end though. If you have an alternative suggestion, you can ask and I will tell you whether or not it is reasonable to make that suggestion. When we make this pastry, we're using a method we've used before. We've been looking at cake making methods. We've used 4 so far. What are the 4 we've used so far?
The creaming method.
Creaming method, excellent. What have we used?
All-in-one.
All-in-one. There's 2 more we've used. Rubbing in, and there's 1 more we used. Melting. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, my scales just went off. Absolutely fantastic. Good memories. So, we've used 4. Like I've said before, we'll do the 5th in a few weeks' time. We'll do our 5th when we make our swish rolls. But for the time being, we've done 4. This pastry, though pastry isn't a cake, it uses the same method that we use to make our scones. What method did we use to make our scones?
Was that the all-in-one?
It wasn't the all-in-one. It was the rubbing in, but excellent attempt. I'm loving the guesses. So, it uses the rubbing in. Who can remember? I'll be looking at your questions on your sheet because I'm going down as we go. Who can remember how you rub in? What is that method like if we had to describe it? Go on.
Do you use your fingertips and pick it up?
You use your fingertips and pick it up. What else do we do?
And then you try to knead it.
You knead it a little bit, but not much, because we don't want the butter to melt, but we do need to knead it a little bit to get it mixed in. What else do we need to do when we are doing that method, Joshua?
You need to, rub the flour and the butter together.
You need to rub the flour and the butter together. Who can remember, and I will be super impressed if anyone can remember, the actual science, what is happening when that butter is being rubbed around the flour? What is it actually doing, Mitchell?
It's bonding them.
It's binding them, but there's something else that it's doing. Throwing butter all over the table. Eve? It makes them waterproof. Excellent. Remind me to give you an extra achievement point. It makes them waterproof. Why? Why do we need it to be waterproof? Yeah.
Is it because you add water to it?
We do add water to it. And when we added water to our bread, when we made pizzas, we wanted it to be all stretchy and elasticated. But when we added the liquid to our scones, did we want our scones to be stretchy and elasticated?
No.
What texture did we want our scones to be? Crispy or crumbly or soft? Yeah, we didn't want them chewy and elastic, did we? We wanted them a bit crumbly, a little bit crispy. We didn't want them to be stretchy. And that's why we make the flour waterproof. So when we add the water, it doesn't make it go all stretchy. It just makes them bind together. So you've all given me those brilliant answers, but stops it from getting stretchy.
Today, are you just doing the pastry?
No, I'm going to show you the whole thing. But mine won't be as successful as yours because, well, you'll see when I make it. Yours will be better because you'll have left it to rest. Right, what I've actually put in there is the same amount, the same weight of flour and fat. That's really, really important. Does anybody know? you know, because it's in the questions, so let's see how observant you all are. Does anybody know what the pastry's called when we make sausage rolls?
Is it puff pastry?
Puff pastry, yeah. What's special about puff pastry? What does it look like, Macaulay?
All puffed up.
It's all puffed up, yeah. So what's it like when you look at it? What's it made up of? Layers, yeah. It's made up of lots of layers. That's what's really, really special about it. But we haven't got time to make a real puff pastry. A real puff pastry makes a bit of pastry like I'm doing now, and then you put a great big slab of butter right in the middle of it, and then you fold it all up like a present, and then you keep rolling it out and folding it and rolling it and folding it and rolling it and folding it to make the layers, and that's really, really unhealthy. But it takes a very long time, because every time you roll it, you have to put it in the fridge for 30 minutes before you roll it again. So we're doing something called a rough puff pastry. So it's a quick version of this puff pastry. So the layers won't be as defined as in a puff pastry. It won't be as flaky as like a Greggs sausage roll and those lovely flaky layers, but it will still be a nice crumbly puff pastry.
I know greenhouse's sausage rolls, they taste better.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at green. See if ours are like greenhouse's ones. Then I've never had a greenhouse's sausage roll.
Should buy one as well now.
Are they nice? Right, I'll take your recommendation when I get one next time I'm near one. And I'm rubbing in, but the difference between the rubbing in of this and the rubbing in of the scones, and this is part of question 7, so I'll discuss it again later, is I'm not rubbing it in so it looks like breadcrumbs. I don't need to, because I need those layers of fat to help create the layers. Because what happens when they go in the oven is that moisture from the butter will release steam, and the steam is what pushes the gluten in the pasta or in the pastry, up, and that's what makes it go flaky. So I don't want to rub it in too much. I'm going to leave it nice and crumbly like that, and then I'm going to add some water. There's no definite amount of water to add. So I'm not going to tell you on the recipe to add 75 millilitres of water. There's no definite amount. I recommend you use a tablespoon. I'm not going to, because I've not got one. And add a tablespoon of water to begin with, and then see if you can squash that together into a dough. And if it still looks dry, add another tablespoon. So it's a bit like when we did the bread, and we added it a bit at a time, until it all sticks together and makes a nice dough that we can roll. So it's starting to stick, but it's still not brilliant. So I'm adding another tablespoon of water, and then I'm going to stick it together. At this stage, I'm going to pop it on the table, like that. Move my bowl out the way, and squash it into a dough. And it's going to get sticky because of all the lumps of butter. And this is why yours is going to be brilliant, because you're going to put yours in the fridge and all that stickiness is going to go away, because that butter's going to go hard again. The more I try and roll this, the warmer it gets, the more the butter will melt and the stickier mess I'm going to make. You're going to rest yours in the fridge to make that butter go nice and hard again, and it will stop all of that stickiness. You're going to put a little bit of flour on the top and a little bit of flour on the surface. See how I've not caked the entire place in flour, and my rolling pin. A little bit of flour on the rolling pin, and then roll it backwards and forwards into a rectangle. Make sure it's not stuck to the surface, and then turn it. And then what you do with that rectangle is you fold it into thirds like that. This is starting to create layers now. I've got 3 layers of pastry. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And this type of dough is called a laminated dough. Laminated means layers. So there's my rectangle again. And then I'm going to do my thirds again. 1, 2, 3. So it looks like I've got 3 layers, but I haven't got 3 layers because that had 3 layers, that had 3 layers, and that had 3 layers. So how many layers have I got? 9 layers. And I'm going to roll it again. And I hope you're good at maths. I'm going to fold it again. You see it's starting to get very sticky, and that's because I'm not resting it in the fridge, and that's okay. I'm going to put a little bit more flour down so it doesn't stick each time. Doesn't affect the taste, no. And then I'm going to roll it again into a rectangle, and then I'm going to fold it again. So now it looks like I've got 3 layers, but I've actually got 9 layers, 9 layers, and 9 layers. So how many layers have I got? 27 layers. Guess what? I'm going to roll it again. Who's ready to do 27, add 27, add 27? 81. 27, 27, 27 is 81. Who's ready to do 81 times 3? 243. 81, 81, 81, 243. Guess what? I'm doing it again.
I'm not doing that. 729. I give up in life. Yeah, I'm really good at that.
Shh. Quiet. Martin, 243 times 3. 243 times 3. 729 layers.
Oh my gosh.
Now, shh. Stop talking. If I'd made a real puff pastry, what I would have done is I'd have had a big piece of butter in the middle, and I'd have made a parcel with it, and then I've rolled it out, and there would have been a big piece of butter in between every layer, and those layers would have been perfect layers. But I had big chunks of butter, so the layers aren't going to be perfect whole layers. Just pop them on there for me. They're not going to be perfect whole layers. It's going to be lots of little layers on top of those big chunks of butter. And I've done that. I could do that more times if I wanted to. If I want it to be even flakier, I can keep going. At that stage, though, you're going to put it, having rolled it 6 times, wrap it up in cling film and put it in the fridge.
It still looks really big.
Yeah. So I'm going to imagine, I want you all to imagine now, in fact, I'm going to put it in the fridge, that's being in the fridge, because I'm going to put it in the fridge while I do the next bit.
Aren't they usually longer?
Right. If you are doing sausages, I'm going to show you how to prepare the sausages for this product. You can buy sausage meat if you want to, or you can use normal sausages, normal pork sausages.
Do these Cumberland sausages?
Yeah, depends how spicy you want it to be. They're a bit spicy, aren't they? And you need, this one's kind of partially done for me. You take the sausage and you peel away the skin, so all you're left with is the sausage meat. And that's just pork meat, yeah. To be honest, I don't know.
Is it skin?
It's not real skin, no. So you see? They can't use frankfurters, sausages or sausage meat. You can't use hot dogs. It doesn't work. There we go. It's whatever the skin is made out of, which, to be perfectly honest with you, it says on the packet, beef protein casings. So that isn't even pork, that's beef. It's a bit weird, isn't it? And there, it's funny that. There's the meat. I'm going to put that to one side until I need it. I've just handled raw meat, so what do I need to do? Quiet! So this is the next day for you now. This is next Wednesday. You've made the pastry on the Monday. On the Wednesday, your pastry will come out of the fridge. You'll unwrap it. You'll put some flour down, some flour on your rolling pin, and you will roll it nice and thin. No.
I'm doing cheese and onion rolls. How many sausages?
You'll see. Shh. Stop talking. Just leave it on the side. I'm going to cut this into equal-ish thirds. And just going to put 2 to one side. So I've got one here. I'm just going to make that a tiny bit thinner. And I'm going to take 1/3 of my sausage meat. So I used 3 sausages. Depends how much filling you want. I'm going to mould that into the shape I want it. And the reason why you don't cook it with the skin, why you don't keep the skin on, is because it would change the texture of your sausage roll. You want the meat to be out of the skin, and you can buy skinless sausages if you don't fancy taking the skin off.
Can I get Richmond sausages?
You can get whatever sausages you like.
Are they skinless?
Roll it up, seal it, and then you can either cut it into small sausages, small sausage rolls like little picnic ones, or I recommend you just put some little cuts into it to help release the steam.
Can we make big ones? Can we make like...
This will make 3 big ones. There's one.
That looks nice. So the steam comes out. That looks nice.
Number 2. Shh.
Now, if you were listening, you know the answers to that question.
This is the problem. I will repeat it on this second one for those people that will give them the benefit of the doubt, sir, and we will assume that they were so busy answering one of the questions on the sheet that they forgot to listen to what I was saying. A little bit more meat. Another 1/3 of my meat. Shape it. Place it down. Right to the edges. Roll it up. And then again, like I said, you can either do not do some big and some little. If you do some big and some little, they're going to take different lengths of time to cook. Okay, and you're going to have some burned and some not cooked before they're all done. So either go all big or all little. If you're going to do them little, chop them up into little pieces. Otherwise, I recommend you make some little cuts right through the pastry to let the steam of the sausage out, because some of the fat will come out as well and it will release moisture, and you don't want a horrible soggy pastry. I'm going to do my last one. Yeah. They will still rise. They should rise really nicely. As long as you've done all those laminate layers, you should get a really lovely risen pastry. And then once you've done all of this, you can choose, if you wish, to put a glaze on your pastry. And if you add a glaze, that basically means you get a pastry brush and either egg or milk, and you brush egg or milk on top of your pastries, and that will make them shiny, but that's up to you. You don't have to do that. There's my last one. No, found it. We'll show you. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Stop talking.